Hello,
I am Miranda,
this is Shivani.
and episode 36. 7?
Episode
30
37, I believe. Yeah,
Okay,
episode
oops, my bad.
37 of
Sorry.
Far From Normal.
Yeah. So we have a guest today. Guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would. I'm Jeremy DeHaai, live in Bloomington, Illinois, and I am Miranda's dad.
Okay.
What more? What do you want me to tell?
You work in sales?
Yes. I work for
Um,
a company that sells chemicals to manufacturing companies primarily.
Yeah.
Help in their manufacturing processes, water treatment, that type of stuff. So I've done that for almost 20 years.
Old man.
Yeah, exactly.
But we invited my dad onto the episode today because he's running for something kind of like political-esque, and we thought it'd be kind of cool to talk about, and also it would be a good platform for him to talk about this and, get people in our community interested in voting for him on the 6th.
The 6th, yep.
The 6th. So we'll just hop on in. So when did you first get interested in the position? Or actually, at first I was very vague about the position. So what is the position that you are applying for?
So I'm running for the McLean County School District Unit 5 School Board. So they currently have 3 vacancies, 3 spots to fill. There's a total of 6 people running for those vacancies. So yeah, that's it. And like I say, April 6th is the election day, which is coming up soon, a week from Tuesday.
Nice. And when did you start looking into doing this?
Yeah, good question. So I've thought about this for years, but when you and Sydney and Justin were all here and none of you were driving yet, we were busy. So it's something like, say, about 4 years ago, I kind of gave it a lot of thought, but just decided it just didn't make sense. Well, my work too. As you know, I used to travel a lot more than I do now. And that's, so I knew that the time commitment, as well as just being here for my family, wasn't going to work out 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But my work is different. I'm not traveling. My overnights have virtually gone away or nearly. So I've got a little more free time.
Yeah.
You're gone. City's going to be going away in the fall. Justin's getting a driver's license, so we won't see him. So, so I'll have some time, and really the time commitment, there's a fair bit of it, but it's not like it's every day. It's, they have every 2 weeks, they have a school board meeting, and then they have some meetings in between. So it's something that I thought about for a long time. And the other thing was last year during the pandemic, that was a driving force that kind of pushed me to do this.
What about the pandemic made you want to do it?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, that I'm good friends with Tony Morstatter. For the people that don't know, he's the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club here in Bloomington Normal.
Mm-hmm.
And we coached Justin's baseball team together, you know that. So just talked to him last summer as we were having games and just talking about the kids that belong to the Boys and Girls Club, typically kids that are, less, or more financially disadvantaged, those type of things, and a lot of single parent kids, belong to the Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
And just talking to him about how it was impacting those kids. It broke my heart. I mean, I said all along with you guys, the learning from home, the remote learning, you could get by. We had good internet access. You're old enough to be able to, you guys, when you were here in the spring, and then your brother and sister in the fall, I knew that they would be okay. But there's a lot of kids that aren't.
Yeah.
That we're not okay with the remote learning, with the hybrid learning. I've talked to, part of what I've done, and I've asked a lot of people, I say, hey, I want to talk to parents, students, teachers, taxpayers. I've talked to a lot of people. It's part of what I've, when I decided to do this, I want to hear from people. I want to hear feedback. And I talked to, it's been probably 6 weeks now, a lady that was telling me that she knew of somebody that had a son that was like, I think he was 3rd grade. He was elementary, special needs kid. Student. His mom was a nurse, single mother. So he had to go to grandma's house in the fall when they weren't in school. Grandma watched him while his mom went to work, but grandma didn't have internet access. So from March 13th of last year until they went back to school, he didn't attend classes. He had no education whatsoever, and he was a special needs kid to begin with. So he already had things working against him. And a situation like it breaks my heart. It does. It's part of what has motivated me to do this. Just, I don't know if I'll be able to make a change, make a difference, but I thought, well, I got to try to do something. And as I've said to you guys, I said, you can sit back and complain about things, but if you don't actually try to make them better, I've always said you don't have a right to complain unless you at least try to do something about it. So here I am.
Shimon, do you have any questions?
Yeah, no, you're totally fine. Yeah, that's a really good point. There's a lot of people I know who just complain a lot about things, but then they just don't actually do anything.
Yeah.
And it's just very hypocritical and
it is
a problem. But
I've told a lot of people for doing that lately. Like they were complaining
real.
about like Amazon and all these things, and I was like, yeah, but do you guys do anything to help, or do you just complain?
Yeah, people are so quick to just have an opinion on things and not do anything about it. But
there's a lot of truth to that. Well, and that's what I told your mom, Miranda. I said I've always told you guys that. I said, you can't just complain about a teacher not being fair or something going on at school and just complain. You got to do something, or at least try to do something. You aren't always going to be able to, but so I said, I don't want to be a hypocrite. So here I am trying to.
Yeah, totally understand that. I know you said something about you were thinking about doing this for like years. Did you have like a role model or like someone specific that kind of like inspired you to want to do something about the school board? Or
No, it's a good question. Not in particular. No, I mean, part of what we've done through this, the candidates, we've talked to PTOs. I think we've done 20 plus PTO discussions, and I always tell people, I've had kids in the school district for 15 years. Part of why we moved to Bloomington. A big part of why we moved to Bloomington, I actually transferred to work out of Decatur with the company I transferred with, but we chose to live here because of the school district. Unified is a great school district. I think so. I mean, obviously they're not perfect, but no school district is, but I think it's a good school district, and I want to just try to keep it so that it has good programs for its students, continue to keep it as a good program. So it's not like there was a particular person that I was, mentoring or, that I was looking up to or inspired by. My inspiration was just to try to do what I can to help the district. That's a big part of it. So
yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So if you do make the school board, you said you had a lot of things COVID related that you're passionate about, and just in general, what are some of your goals if you make the school board?
Yeah, appreciate that. That's a good question. So the COVID, the pandemic is a big part of it. Obviously, I mean, right now they're working towards going back to school. Elementary's back full time.
Right.
Junior high and high school go back 4 days a week. Starting actually the day before the election, they go back on the 5th to 4 days a week. So they're still having Wednesdays off. What I want to do is make sure that we figure out how to keep them there. There's until March of last year, the thought of a pandemic was. Nobody, we probably would never have considered that, right? I mean, I'm sure people had pandemic and emergency preparedness plans, stuff like that. But nobody, I think if you predicted this craziness of the last year was going to happen, nobody would have believed you. But now we've seen it. So we need to make sure that if there's another one or if there's something similar, we're a little more prepared. I think, you get caught off guard once. Well, you get caught off guard. I mean, that happens, right? You get caught off guard twice. Maybe after the first time, you should have done something to be prepared. So that's one of the things I want to make sure that the school board or the school district does is make sure they're ready for the next disaster 2.0, whatever that is. And, figure out that they can make sure, obviously, if it's real bad, you're going to have to do some remote learning, but I want to make sure that the focus is to get the kids in school. I think, another thing that I think the school district's really going to need to focus on, it's going to be a challenge, is getting these kids caught up.
Mm-hmm.
It's some kids, I've heard people say that their kids are thriving in hybrid and remote learning, but I think in general, I think that I would guess that probably more people have suffered as opposed to the ones that have done well. and they got to figure out how to get those kids caught up. One of the challenges, if you look around our state, surrounding states, a lot of them have been back in person since August. So those kids obviously are a step ahead. There's no two ways about it. And how the school district works on getting those kids caught up is going to be a challenge.
Do you have any ideas for that?
Well, I do. One thing I think that they should do and look at doing, and I know summer school, they've really expanded the summer school program
right.
by force, meaning the kids that are going to have to take summer school, I think it was at least 5 times what it was last year. It tells you how bad the kids are doing right now, how much people are struggling. I think they should figure out a way with some of the federal money that they're getting from the various relief packages to make it provide it to everybody, provide the opportunity. So if somebody, whatever grade they're in, say they want to take a class, take a summer school course, provide that opportunity for them to do that. Yeah. That's obviously there's a lot of costs associated with that, but the $2 or $1.9 trillion relief package is supposed to provide funding to the school. So I think they should provide that as an option, if you will, for all the families for their kids, to try to get them caught up. And I think some of the kids that have struggled and want to do well in school are going to see that as an opportunity and will take advantage of it. I think that's one approach, short term, that has some merit to it. Other than that, potential things of extending the school year, different stuff like that. There's challenges associated with doing that. There's costs associated with doing that. You have contracts with teachers. There's a lot at play there to get stuff like that done. But it's things that should be looked at anyway.
Yeah, I totally agree with kids being a little behind. I know my mom is a substitute and she would have to substitute like kindergartners and over online at a school. And she was always talking about how like they just weren't paying attention and that like it really wasn't helping at all. And you can't control like kids over like online in the Zoom environment. It's really hard to keep their attention. So yeah, it's probably definitely going to affect them in the long run if we don't do something about it really soon. Yeah, for sure. And you were talking about like preparations for like a disaster like 2.0. Do you have any ideas of like how would we go about that, like preparations?
Well, I think some of the things that need to be done, and some of the stuff is, I think, the state and federal government, I'm assuming, are going to do some assistance with stuff like, having PPE available and ready to go. Stockpiles that stuff available if and when it's ever needed again. Contingency plans in place so that, instead of, just doing across the board, everybody go home and we're done, educating now, or we're done with the in-person learning now, figure out a way if you can stagger it, look at potential alternative resources. I've always, one of the thoughts is there's buildings available, the Grosinger Motor Arena, they're using it now for vaccines, so it's not available at this point. But when this first started back in March, could that have been used in some way, shape, or form? I don't know. I don't know what those answers are, but those, I don't have all the details of that, but I think those are things that should be looked at and prepared for, because you just never know.
Sure.
You also touched on kind of the concepts of like equity, helping people like catch up. And earlier you mentioned that you want to make, all the voices heard. So how have you been trying to do that in your campaign, and how do you plan on doing that once you have the position, or if you have a position, I guess?
Good question. Well, part of what I've been doing is I've pretty much anybody I talk to, I say, I want to, in all the PTO meetings and my most campaigning is via Facebook, because that's seems to be the way they do it now, is I'm telling people to reach out to me. I want to talk to, so you say to be able to, allow people to have their voices be heard. I want to hear from them, and I'm going to continue to do that. If I am elected, I want to, reach out to me. I may not have the answers, but at least I want to be able to, give people the opportunity to tell me their thoughts and ideas. Because I think that's, one of the other challenges I think that the school district had through all this pandemic was communications. This last go around. In speaking with teachers, that a few teachers I've spoken with, that's one of their biggest frustrations was the lack of communication or delay in communications. They would find out about something changing the week before it happened, that type of stuff.
Right.
And I understand that, and you can't always prepare and be, plan stuff out well in advance, but I think communication is a critical piece. And that's what I want to focus on. I want people, if they have thoughts, ideas, concerns, reach out to me. And I'm going to at least, acknowledge and hear what they have to say. And if there's something that can be done to improve things, I want to do that because, like I said, I have my thoughts and ideas. But if I'm elected by the people that I'm representing. So I should be representing them. I should listen to them.
Right.
I think that's critical, and that's what I intend to do.
This is a little off topic, but like not really off topic, but do you have any like personal like bad experiences with the school board? Like have you tried to reach out to them and like had any bad experience with them just not listening?
No, I really haven't. It's not that I've, where I have done something like that and I was frustrated. I've heard a lot of stories I've heard about that. People said they've reached out to the school board and they didn't get a reply. And I did. In August, as soon as they made the decision to go to remote learning, I communicated with the superintendent, and she replied within a few days, and shared her thoughts and ideas. So, as far as that goes, I would say it's not like I felt like, hey, they've shunned me, and so therefore I have an axe to grind or something. You know what I mean? It's nothing like that. I just feel like especially with social media right now, communication is so critical. If something, if you're delayed in your communication, people get frustrated and then things spin out of control really quick. And so I just think being open and honest and upfront with as many things as you can is the best way to go.
Yeah, sure.
How would you recommend that the school board like goes about making their communication more efficient and more available?
It's a good question. I mean, I think part of it is be more open in the decision-making process. Again, referencing the pandemic and that, because that's pretty easy to reference. It's a pretty big event that's happened this past year, right? I felt, in my personal opinion, like, the decisions that were being made didn't have a whole lot of, input from stakeholders, students, teachers. That's one thing the teachers told me. So we were asked, but our opinions didn't matter. They sent out a questionnaire to the parents back in August. How many wanted to do in person versus remote, and the majority wanted to do in person, and they chose to do remote. Why send out the questionnaire? Those types of things, just so I guess that's part of it. Is what I want to do if I am, like I say, fortunate enough to be elected, is I'm going to have people, I want to rely on the people to communicate with me. I'm going to ask for that a lot, saying, hey, here's an issue that's coming before the board. Tell me your thoughts. And I'm sure I'll get a lot of different thoughts and a lot of ideas. And some of them are going to be, I may be able to do something about it, some of them I won't, but I want to just be open on that. That's the other thing, right? The decision, they did establish certain metrics, and then this last decision, the metrics, when they put the elementary kids back full time, but the junior high, senior high, or the high school kids weren't. It was, well, we're going to wait and see, and there's a lot of confusion as far as what the deciding factors were. So I just feel like sharing that stuff.
Nice. I had a question. 1 second. So this is more of a broad scale type question. So obviously you are running for school board, but have you learned anything about running for politics in general, or running for something in general, that kind of stuff through the process?
Going through this process, yeah, I have. It's it's been interesting. I'll say that. I thought I would get the signatures I needed, get on the ballot, give the opportunity to tell people why I'm running for school board, and then people would make a decision based on, the best candidates possible. I did not expect the campaigning. There's a lot to this. Like I say, we've done probably 20 plus PTO meetings. We have a tomorrow evening, the NAACP. We've got a candidate forum. There's one on Tuesday. The GOP of I think it's McLean County is doing a candidate forum. There's been a lot of campaigning, getting signs out. It's a lot more than I thought. I mean, some people that I'm running against, if you will, have raised thousands and thousands of dollars for campaigning. I think one of them was $4,500. Doing a lot of fundraising.
Holy, that's insane.
Well, that's what I thought too. But fundraising, different things. I thought to me that just I didn't see this, and I guess I should have. I was running for an elected office. I didn't see this as a political campaign. I thought I have some ideas. I want to be an advocate for the students. I'm going to put my name in a hat, and hopefully people will hear my message. I think that makes sense. I did not expect it to be as much of a political campaign as it has been. So it's been that's been interesting. So I have learned a lot. I've learned that I probably don't want to be in politics.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's not something that I enjoy doing.
Right. It's very competitive. Do you think it's like more competitive than it was in previous years? Like, is it because of COVID and like people be all like having a very similar like being upset mindset? Or do you think it's always this competitive?
That's a good question. And no, I don't think it is. I've looked at it in previous years. There's been some school board elections that people have been elected uncontested. They had nobody running against them or not enough people running. So yeah, it's very contested. And actually it's interesting. A lot of the elections, it's the consolidated election that's taken place on April 6th. It's the mayor's, various wards or electing people, city council, that type of stuff. And they're all pretty competitive right now. I think you're right. I think a lot of people, whether, between the pandemic and people having thoughts and ideas and opinions on that, and really just the political discourse of our country is sketchy for the last years, but that we maybe don't want to get, or maybe we do want to get into, but I think a lot of people are just they want to have their voices heard, which is good. I think that's a good thing.
I have more questions, but Shivani, I'll give you a chance since I asked.
No, it's totally good. No, you can go ahead.
Okay. So I thought it was interesting that you said money was a super big element because that is obviously something that you see in politics, like everywhere. I don't know, just do you think that, I guess ethically, do you think it's right that it's so economically driven?
I don't like it. It like I say, that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. I said to your mom, we're running for school board. Yeah, it's an important role, but it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not like we're running for governor or a congressman or something huge. It's relatively low level, if you will, political office, and to raise thousands of dollars to me, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And the money, some of the fundraising that's done, there's the support that people are getting. That's a little interesting for me as well too. One of the big supporters or endorsers for the school board is the teachers union, and
right.
I've said this, and I believe this completely. What the teachers have done this past year through this pandemic it's been nothing short of heroic. It really has, because between the remote, hybrid, some kids in class, some not in class, the safety issues, it's been nothing short of heroic, like I say. But the teachers union actually reached out to all the candidates and asked, said, we are looking for candidates to endorse and to support financially and to advise their members to vote for. And I chose not to participate in that process.
Okay.
It was actually the only candidate that didn't do it. which I found after the fact maybe ruffled some feathers and caused some people to be upset that I didn't participate. But I said that I felt that that presented a potential conflict of interest. And what I mean by that, the school board negotiates the contract with the teachers union. So to be endorsed by the teachers union, yeah, I support teachers 110%, I really do. But to say the teachers union endorsed me and gave me money to be on the school board, and down the road when their next contract comes up, I'm involved with that negotiations. I just thought that's a potential slippery slope, in my opinion.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't. But I chose to participate in it for that reason. I thought I didn't want to give. Like I said, I want there to be no doubt if I'm elected, onto the school board, why I'm making decisions on that board. It's going to be for the students. It's the students are number one. I don't want somebody to think, yeah, but he was endorsed by the school board, so maybe he's thinking about or endorsed by the teachers union, so maybe he's thinking about the teachers first. That's not going to be an issue for me because I chose not to pursue that. So stuff like that, just, I don't know, like I say, it just sits weird with me.
Right. It's just such a wide scale question. It doesn't specifically pertain to you, but I was just thinking the law from a few years ago that was in the US, any company can endorse any candidate with a ton of money. What are your thoughts on that? Would you also disagree with that one?
I do disagree with it. I think that they, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but if you look at the last election, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars are spent on these elections. I just think we have better things we can be doing with the money. Like I say, just look at this example. Candidates are raising $4,000. If let's say there's all the 6 school board candidates raised combined, I'm making up a number, $15,000. Or we use the $15,000 for the school district or something that can help the students. You know what I mean? That obviously I know that's that's not to say that's going to be a direct correlation and say, hey, don't give me the money, let's donate it to the school. But the point is, I think at all levels, I believe that. I think nationally in particular, the companies, the millions and millions of dollars that they donate to these campaigns. Again, it goes back to, I think, the potential conflict of interest, or even just the perception of a conflict of interest. I didn't even want to have there be a perception of a conflict of interest. Right. That's why I chose not to do it. And I agree with you. I think it's at a across the country at all levels. I think it's an issue.
Shall
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just thinking as we're talking and I'm figuring everything out. I didn't really understand kind of what went into being a part of the school boards. I'm learning a lot as we're talking right now. So, yeah, no, I totally agree with there being a conflict of interest with money, because I totally see how that would be a slippery slope, and how there might be underlying intentions and other agendas going on, and sort of that kind of conflicting with a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Do you think you have any unique skills that would make you stand out among, or skills or just maybe experience that would make you stand out amongst other candidates?
Yeah, I do. I appreciate it. That's a good question. So a couple things. I went to United States Merchant Marine Academy. That was where I got my Bachelor of Science degree. Not a typical university experience. It was a federal military academy is what it was. And then upon graduation, I was in the Naval Reserves for 10 years. So I think being part of the military, it forces teamwork, camaraderie, being able to work with other people. That's going to be critical. There's 7 people on the school board. And so you got 6 other people you're going to have to work with to make decisions. So I think that's part of some of that background, like say in the military, you have no choice but to work well with people. And so you may or may not like them. It doesn't matter. You have to work with them to achieve the goal of the mission. And I think that is one thing. The other thing is, as Miranda touched on, I mean, I've been in chemical sales, worked for companies that sold chemicals for 20 years. And it's a similar type of situation. You have a lot of people involved, a lot of stakeholders. You have the customer, you have on the customer end, you have maybe an operator, you have an environmental person, you may have somebody that, CFO, you may have an owner. On our end, we have our ownership, my manager, me. You have a lot of people involved, and you have to try to work things out. So a lot of stakeholders have, some skin in the game, something involved with the decision process, which obviously in the school district, there's a bunch of that. You have the students, teachers, parents, administrators, taxpayers. You have a lot of people that are involved, and you have to try to come up with solutions that satisfy everybody's needs as best as possible. You're not going to, it's tough to have everybody happy. That'd be great if you can, but so those couple things. And then also in the business world, I've been in charge, regional sales manager, been responsible for profit and loss P&L for regions, several $1 million. So the financial aspect of it is, not to say I understand the financial aspects of the school district right now in a lot of detail, but I know how to do that type of stuff. I understand about, the P&L and making sure you're paying attention to, being a fiscally responsible entity, if you will.
I like the sliding in of I was in the military.
Well, I mean, my opinions on that. I think it's helpful. Being in the military did a lot for me. If I had, going to the academy and being in the military helped me a lot. Helped me be the person I am. So I don't know. Not to say that I wouldn't have accomplished, good things in my life, but it certainly helped get me on a track that helped me to achieve good things. So So
I was thinking of this question while you were talking. So I asked kind of like what you've learned about politics, but I know like from individual conversations with you that you've also learned some other things. You've researched some stuff and that kind of stuff. So what kind of things have you learned about your beliefs or different beliefs in society or different things like that as you've started this campaign?
Yeah, I like that. It's a good question. So some of the things that I've learned and picked up on with conversation with people is I want to focus on the key part being all students, making sure that all students have their opportunity to achieve, their best, if you will. So I've spoken with a handful of folks that have children with special needs.
Okay.
And learned about the special needs programs at the schools and the pros and cons and challenges associated with that. There's also obviously, the minority students, underprivileged students. I want to focus on them, and I've learned and tried to, understand the challenges that they may deal with a little more than what I may have known or than what I did know prior to starting this campaign. And I want to continue to learn that because I don't obviously know the answers. I don't know the struggles that minority students deal with because I'm not a minority student, but I'd like to learn it and understand it and communicating with those students and with the families involved. There's going to be a big part of that, and I'm trying to do that. And there's, even the other things, people of sexuality, gay, LG, I don't know, LGBT. Something for me to understand. I've learned, and we've had conversations about this. I don't understand the challenges associated with that. Again, because it's not been a part of my world. But I want to make sure that I learn it and understand those challenges because if I'm elected, because it will be part of the students of Unit 5's world, and I need to at least have an understanding of what those challenges are for those folks as well. So that's part of it. Like I say, I tell people that I have my perspective on the school district is a parent's perspective. That's all I have. I've not been a teacher. I've not been a student in Unit 5. I've not been an administrator. I haven't been a minority in Unit 5. I don't know a lot of those people's perspectives, but I want to learn it. And that's a critical part. Is like I say, I have to understand it if I'm going to do a good job as representing the people. I just have to. So I have learned some of that stuff. I've got more to learn, and I look forward to that opportunity.
Cool. I like it.
So we are pretty much out of time, but this has been super, super helpful to understand like who's running for the school board and getting an idea of like what we're looking into, and maybe help the people who are voting figure out, if they're teetering on different candidates, like this might have helped them. So thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing.
Do you have any last thoughts that you want to share?
Yes.
Really, last thoughts is sort of what I've alluded to. Is I'd love to hear from people.
Yes.
I'm on Facebook is where we're doing most of our campaign, and I've put my thoughts and beliefs and different ideas up there, and I have an email address. If you search Jeremy DeHaai and Unified School Board, there's only one. Our school board candidates, I think everybody has a website, or excuse me, everybody has a Facebook page that's running. So if you are going to be voting, check it out. Learn about the candidates and see. And then lastly is so like I said, I'd love to hear from folks. And then lastly is if you're interested, I'd love to have people vote for me on April 6th.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so reach out if you have any questions, and you can look them up on Facebook. Unit 5. I'm sure all the information is in that description. We'll add it in the description as well. Do you have any final thoughts, Miranda?
I think I'm good.
Alrighty then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so thank you for joining us again. This was really helpful. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lots of fun.
Yeah. So to our listeners, if you guys have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can email us at farfromnormalpodcast2020@gmail.com. We have an Instagram at farfromnormalpodcast and a Google Forms and the Instagram, so you can also leave any questions, comments, concerns in there as well. And we'll have our next episode next week, and we'll see you later. And subscribe and
subscribe.
Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. So leave any comments. That'd be greatly appreciated. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye.